Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, big loss for CF Montreal in Nashville. Can we tough it up until injured players are back? And our quest for the Canadian Championship starts on Tuesday. That and a lot more on episode 178 of The Ball is Round. And I'm joined this evening by my good friend Eve Powell. Hey Eve, how are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm fine. And of course, we have a special guest today with Matthias van Haast. Matthias, how's everything?
Hi everyone. I hope not as bad as Montreal. Yes.
It's hard. It's hard to be as bad as Montreal today. Hopefully. So of course, Elias is not here. It's his Easter. So happy Easter to Elias and his whole family. Of course, it's the Orthodox Easter this weekend. So perfect. So let's talk about CF Montreal because big loss yesterday evening, 4-1 in Nashville. And you know me, usually whenever there's a big loss, I always find that the pod is even better than usual. So let's make it better than usual because there's a lot to talk about. So first of all, let's see what Laurent Courtois had in mind when he showed up his lineup. So lineup with Jonathan Sirois in goal. In central defense, we had George Campbell on the right, Joel Waterman in the middle of the back three, and Alvarez on the left-hand side. As wingbacks, we had Rouen on the right and Edwards on the left. In the midfield, we had Piet Chouanière. A bit forward, the two offensive midfielders were Bryce Duke and Ariel Lassiter. And as a striker, Jules Anthony Vilsan. You look at that lineup, Matthias, what did you think of it? Again, Laurent Courtois keeping, Chouanière and Piet in the middle. Again, with Lassiter and Duke and Vilsan given the nod. Did you think that was the right decision?
I will give not the flowers, but the excuses and then the pots. The excuse is that Courtois has a lot of injured players, so he has not a lot of choices. You see the bench. There are two goalkeepers on the bench. Maybe it will have good opportunity for Biello, for example, to be on the bench. Maybe he had other duties or something else planned. I don't know. But that's the excuse. As I see that, why not? I saw the lineup saying, okay, never change a drawing team against a team of Columbus that was focused on Champions League, unless you change Toybal Vilsan, who was more visible when he entered the game that Toy during the time he spent on the field in Columbus. But as it was, do not change something that did earn a point, obviously, but against a team that was not really focused on the game, we have to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree that Columbus was not really focused on the game. And, as you said, we don't need to change something that's already working because we were able to get a draw from Columbus. Yves, you see Jules-Anthony Vilsan, I know he had, as Matthias said, a very good time on the pitch when he came in against Columbus. Did you feel that he deserved that nod up front?
I mean, I think it was a situation of needs must. He's still so early in his career with Montreal. And of course, previously he really came from like a reserve setup. So you could even say in his pro career that I think we kind of have agreed previously that he is still most effective as a sub. Like he still is learning so much. However, the circumstances right now are that, it's just so thin up top with all of the injuries that Montreal is suffering with. And unfortunately, Mason Toye was largely anonymous in the match versus Columbus. So I can kind of understand why Courtois made the choice that he made. Although I was not very optimistic, like when I saw Vincent starting, that it was going to be like a continuation of his entrance against Columbus.
Yeah, and let's start with him. Usually we start with the goalkeeper, but let's start with the striker, with Jules Anthony Vilsan. How did you rate his performance, Eve?
I mean, for large parts of the match, really much of the first half, Montreal was doing nothing going forward, truly. And the few crosses that they did get in went to like the fourth post, whether it was from a corner or from open play. So he really, really did not have a whole lot to work with. I do find it a little bit hard to judge, really based on mainly the first half, I guess, of the game. However, in the second half, after Nashville scored their third goal and Montreal kind of started growing into things a little bit more, he was more involved. He seemed to be making interesting runs. Unfortunately, he wasn't connecting with any of the players. I mean, everybody up top, I know we'll talk about them all in detail, but everybody at the top end of the pitch was not having a very good night at all. And I don't think that helped a young player like Vilsan, who is, he's not in great form, obviously, because he has been battling injury on and off this season. So I would qualify it, I guess, as a night to forget for him a little bit.
Yeah, and a
For
night
all
to
the players,
forget.
but for him too.
Exactly, for all the players, that was exactly what I was gonna say. But Matthias, we look at what Jean-Anthony Vilsain is able to bring. Playing up front in such a system where you're playing away from home, where you need to play a lot with your back to the goal and make sure that the block, comes up. Do you think that suits his style of play, or do you think that he's more someone that should play within space? He can create space also, or what do you think is his best position as Anthony Pizza?
To be honest, I don't really know because we haven't seen him so many times since the beginning of his career, and most of the games I remember of him were away games, so it's even more difficult to judge. But I join Eve with with her remarks about Vincent, because he didn't bring what he brought in Columbus, and even if yes, he was not served well, and that's right, but he did something a bit more in Columbus to make a difference, and he had a little added value he didn't bring yesterday. But he didn't receive any ball. The midfield was so poor. That was incredible. The midfield was totally drowned by Nashville. So how a striker alone like him can be judged when he's just isolated on island? So what does he do? Yes, maybe he could have worked to help defense, and yes, we could have seen him, and maybe be there on defending, on corner kicks, and something like that. But his main goal is to score goals, and Montreal had no chances. So what can we do about him? What can we say about him?
Exactly. No, you're right. You're right. I feel there's just one thing. I feel that sometimes, when you see a midfielder, like an offensive midfielder, drop in to get the ball a bit lower on the pitch, usually he doesn't react in the same way, take space when someone drops in, or he doesn't create something, he doesn't move enough, consequently to someone that really drops a bit lower. I feel that sometimes, is it maybe a lack of cohesion up front, because it's the first time that all three of them really played together as starters with the Duke, Lassiter, and Vilsain. So maybe a lack of cohesion there. But sometimes I thought that Jules Anthony Vilsain could have done a bit more with his movement and his positioning on the pitch on a few occasions. But as you said, he didn't have enough service to be judged as he should be. We say hi to Nicholas Radeski, who said good evening and thank you for doing this every Sunday. Our pleasure. We love doing it. Thanks for joining us. That's always very, very nice. Let's move on to the two offensive midfielders, Yves, Ariel Lassiter, Bryce Duke. Another subpar performance for Bryce Duke.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the first subpar performances from Ari Lassiter.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think all of Montreal looked like they had been hit over the head or something before taking to the pitch on last night. You know, it was Bryce Duke. Unfortunately, he was kind of in no man's land. Like, he was never where you would expect him to, or where you would expect, say, an attacking midfielder to be in the run of play. And again, Montreal did struggle mightily to get out of their own half for large stretches of this match. So there is kind of a smaller sample size than you would normally expect, I think, in a 90-minute game to judge these players on, because they played so deep for so many stretches of this match, really until probably about the 60th minute or so. It was really unfortunate. There was just absolutely no cohesion, as you mentioned, between any of the players. Like, up front, you know, it was hard to imagine that they had ever set foot on a pitch together ever before. You know, never mind being starters together for the first time. It felt like they didn't even know each other. There was just no connection. You know, runs were poorly timed, passes were all over the place. Like, you know, occasional cutesy moves were tried and failed spectacularly. Like, everything that did go wrong could go wrong, I would say.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, as you said. Matthias, you look at the options that Laurent Courtois had on his bench, right? And you look at that, and you see the changes that he's made, with Rida Zuhir coming in, with Mason Toy coming in, and also with Sunusi Ibrahim coming in, for those, you know, being up front for all three of them. Do you feel that those players could have done something different in a way? Because honestly, I look at this, and I've been looking at Duke playing away from home. It's always very bad when he plays away from home. I think the best game that he had was in Montreal, because we had possession and we had the flow of the game in a way, and I think he can help that way. But do you feel at that point, Laurent Courtois a bit lacked cojones?
I won't be hard on Lassiter and Duke, as you have been both, for two reasons. First one, because of the subs looked good, because Nashville had a large room.
Mm-hmm.
They had three goals advantage, and it was more easy for them. They were more relaxed, and they let Montreal play a bit more. So obviously, Toy had more chance to show himself than Vilsaint, for example. And
sure.
that's one thing. And the second thing is that I'm wondering, and Duke was maybe the perfect example, what instructions are to the players on the road to defend. Because Duke, yes, I agree, he was often in a no man's land when Montreal was in ball possession. Mm-hmm. And it was most of the game, and it was very, very, very bad stat, because Montreal were dominated, and they had 60% of ball possession. That was just crazy and nonsense, but it was like that. And it would have been more interesting to see where that ball possession was, in which third of the field. But I remember Duke often he tried to help his right side to defend. Sometimes I remember a play in the first half, and I said, oh, wow, great what you're doing, Duke, but you're not a defender. But he was there, and I think it was Juan or Campbell who was in a bad position. The other one was a solution, but he didn't see it, and Duke was there offering him as a solution and showing his partner that another teammate was there as another solution. And saying, oh, that's a great play, Bryce Duke. But when you're doing all that defending work, do you have the lucidity then to be there to attack and to construct, to build? So I'm wondering if all of that is something that helps. And on the other side, Lassiter, who was used to defend when he played as a wingback, now in his new position, he doesn't defend anymore.
He doesn't defend. He's like,
no,
I don't need to do it anymore.
He has stopped it, and I thought yesterday when he received the ball, it was rare, but he tried, he dared something, he took some chances, and he was moving, he was doing something at least. Because the other ones, they were okay. We'll pause the ball and we're trying. Oh, we lose the ball and all that. Because it was 60% of ball possession, but what was the duration of the ball possession too?
Yeah.
It was like 5 seconds for one team, 3 seconds for the other team. It was like ping pong.
I completely agree, and I like what Andy's impact zone says. Well said, Eve. I think Duke needs a certain level of comfort with his strikers to be at his best. I completely agree with that. But I also think he needs to have that not only ball possession but the momentum with the club, which we didn't have yesterday. We do have a comment also from Patrick that says, "I'm worried about Yankov. Struggled with injury last year. Now he can't stay fit for more than a game at a time." And you know what? That's a subject that I really want to talk about. Can we say right now that it's already a flop for Dominik Yankov, or is it too early?
That's really early.
That's too early. Too early.
Holy moly!
But listen, the guy that's when we need him, and he's been injured. He didn't play two games in a row yet.
I understand, but like I am no stranger to a hot take. But
really, when was the last hot take you took?
I don't remember. No, last week actually. I am no stranger to a hot take, but that is a piping hot take.
Honestly, yeah. What? Honestly, I'm just very worried. And I agree with Patrick. Yes, it's very early, but I'm still worried because
I agree. Like it's not encouraging.
It's
but
really not.
It's way too early to call a flop.
Of course.
Yeah, there's a difference between being worried and saying that it's a flop.
Of course. It's just
exactly
a funny question that I wanted to ask. Good. So, but I agree with you, Patrick. He says he looks good when he's in, so can't be a flop. I agree with you, but
but he needs to play.
Exactly.
You still need to play, right? So good. So moving on, and you talked a lot about the midfield, Matthias. And you look at Piet and Choinière that were once again starters for this game. Can we blame them individually, or is it a tactical problem in your opinion? Like, because when you look at their individual performances or as a duo, I don't think they made mistakes, Choinière and Piet. I just think they were completely overloaded. There were so many other players in the midfield, and they weren't able to keep up with everything.
But it's very strange because when you look at the first games of the seasons, away games too, there were a strength of the team. There were one of the reasons the opponent was not able to play in the beginning of the game, and they were pushing the opponent and impeaching them to play. And now I think that the style of Courtois has been scouted by the other coaches, and they know that. And now the beginning of the game is very, very different, and Piet and Choinière cannot do that anymore. And then the remaining of the game is like a bit depending on that. And they are just average players now, and both of them. And I come back on what I said about Duke, about Choinière too. His role under Courtois is different than his role under Losada. He has more freedom under Losada to build the game, and now he has a lot of defensive work to do, and that does not help him. And that's a problem, because yes, he has some great times. But it's very difficult. He has his workload. I think it's more heavy. It's heavier than last year, and it's more like a pick. You have to do that. You have to do that. You have to do that. And maybe he needs more freedom.
Okay, interesting. Do you feel the same, Yves? Do you think that he needs more freedom?
I'm inclined. Like, I feel like for it to be such an issue, match in and match out, match in and match out, in the midfield, you know, as Matthias said, like so much cleanup duty really being assigned to both of these players. It is a tactical decision, obviously, by Laurent Courtois to play in that way. But I also agree that we're not necessarily letting Matthias Choinière perform to the best of his abilities because, well, there are definitely many things for which we could reproach Hernan Lozada. That was probably one of the positive takeaways of his season in Montreal was kind of the evolution of Matthias Choinière's ability in the midfield. And it does kind of feel like he's been dragged backwards a little bit in his development.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a problem in his development because I feel that
Yeah, I was not. That was not 100% the word I wanted to use. I just couldn't think of a
exactly
good one.
maybe a regression in his performances in a way, but
Yeah,
in his performances, not development. Maybe that's
maybe,
what.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree that sometimes what's really nice in Choignard's game is the fact that he's we say in French that he has three trois poumons. So he has three
Lungs.
Lungs.
lungs. Thank you. He has three lungs. That means that he can run everywhere and repeat the efforts, and still find, and to use the same word that Matthias has chosen a bit earlier, still find the lucidity to really find the back of the net or give an assist at the end. So that's one of his main strengths. And right now, he doesn't have that freedom to be decisive. He just has a responsibility to be as defensive as possible to make sure that nothing goes through the middle of the pitch. And I feel that it's a bit limiting him in his role, and I agree with both of you. Elias in a post game presser asked a question to Laurent Courtois, saying, "Are you willing to make a change to your midfield and add a third midfielder at one point? When
Mhm.
are you going to do that? In a way, like, is it something that you're considering?" And the answer of Laurent Courtois was, "Yes, of course, he might do it at one point, but not right now." And saying that right now he didn't find that it would be the perfect solution to do that. Matthias, when you hear that, do you feel that it's someone being a bit too stubborn? Or do you feel that it's kind of normal because in order to build cohesion and to build, some fluidity in a team, you need to repeat the performances and to trust your own system?
I will answer by asking another question and by making maybe a comparison with last season. Know that Kokarov, Yankov, and Martinez are not there anymore. What are the changes in the roster except Ruan? So Courtois has the same players as
Edwards.
last season. Excuse me.
Edwards too.
Edwards too. That's true. So the sides, but in the center of the play, the players are the same. And one of the issues, it's not it doesn't answer your questions, but I wanted to point that out. One of the issues is, Choinière has a lot of work to do to prevent the opponent from going through the center of the field, and that's the place Montreal allow the more goals. So it's not from crosses; it's from the center of the field. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So maybe something that was done last year with the same players actually in the center of the field as now. No, except Sosa. I forgot Sosa, but Sosa is injured too now. So so maybe Courtois should watch some games played under Losada last season and take some lessons and say, okay, some things were maybe not working as bad as that, because all everybody's blaming Losada. I'm not, and now we can compare. And I do not blame Courtois. I don't say Courtois is not doing a good job. I don't say that at all. Far from that, and don't misunderstand me. But we have to keep in mind that everything was not bad last season either. So we can also take some lessons and not restart from scratch, because sometimes it looks like this. It looks like that.
Wow. Okay. Very hot. That's a hot take, Eve. That's a hot take.
No,
You should learn from my
that's
chats.
that's a spicy one. Yeah.
So, do you agree with that? I want to hear you on that thought, Eve. Should Laurent Courtois learn from Hernan Losada?
Like I said, I don't think. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would not repeat the Hernan Losada experiment again, but it's not to say it was a complete wash. As I mentioned, we did see the breakout of Matthias and Hady under his regime, and so I think that there are definitely pieces that could be learned, absolutely. And I think not learning anything from what the few things that did go well last season would be incredibly naive for a coach. Like, I think it would be really interesting to say, like, so much went poorly for this Montreal side. Like, there's so much I learned that I don't want to do, but there's also a couple of things, very few, that did actually look good. So, can we build on that? Is there anything that can be retained? I don't think it's completely outside the realm of possibility, but adjusting the midfield doesn't mean going back to Lozada ball 100%. There's a happy medium in there somewhere.
100%. Let's talk about that.
And I will add, it's a question I'm asking myself, like, live now.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Chouanière now has defensive work to provide. Last season, he has more room and attacking room. Mm-hmm. So maybe, I don't know if it's true, because we have to think about it, but maybe that was making the opponents more afraid to build and to go through the midfield, because they were afraid that Chouanière freedom would hurt them. Now that they know that Chouanière has first to focus on his defensive duties, mm-hmm. they are less afraid to go through the midfield.
That's a possibility.
That's a possibility. I don't know. That's something that goes through my mind. No, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I've not talked about it a lot. I just think, and maybe I open it a bit.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe, not adding a third midfielder in a way, but you can play Chouanière a bit further, give him a bit of freedom offensively, play him for Duke, remove Duke, put Wanyama, and you'll play with Pietro Wanyama as the double pivot, and play with Matthias Chouanière up front, see what he can bring you offensively, because he's able to drop and get the ball forward. He's able to do everything that Duke is trying to do. So maybe that's a way of doing that. But I want to talk about the subs. I'm going to be very honest. I really loved Rida Zouhir and Sunusi Ibrahim when they came in. Honestly, I feel that those two, maybe it was more than 30 minutes. The cameo was kind of interesting. So it wasn't like 5 minutes where you can't really judge them. But I really loved what they were able to do. I think Rida Zouhir could bring that extra flair in the midfield that CF Montreal is missing nowadays. And, usually we say that a young player comes in and he brings his whole, vitality on the pitch. Mm-hmm. And I think we needed that yesterday in a way. Do you feel, Eve, that those two, Rida Zouhir, but also Sunusi Ibrahim, because every time Sunusi Ibrahim came on the pitch this year, he's been interesting. He's never had a bad cameo, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you for Sunusi. I thought he added kind of an extra spark, a little bit of unpredictability. I saw him very willing to take defenders on one-on-one, even though so few Montreal players had come out successful in those one-on-one duels all night. So I saw, I think, a lot of willingness on his part. And I mean, by that point, the score was rather a foregone conclusion. I think it was maybe, I can't remember if the Montreal had scored their goal when they came in or not. I think Montreal had scored their goal.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, it was right around that time. Anyway, it was close to that time. No, I think actually in hindsight, it was just before Montreal scored their goal that they came in. So I saw some, there was just it was just like a breath of fresh air, I think, after a lot of stagnation in that sphere of the pitch, which we were sorely lacking. And, it seemed to be that at least for a little while, the Nashville defenders kind of had to think a little bit harder and adjust a little bit more. And it was it was quite positive. I was like a little bit annoyed that Suhir managed to pick up a yellow card, but like also I think maybe the yellow cards are being handed out like a little bit willy-nilly kind of toward the end of the game. So that kind of, I guess, would have been my only reproach because, Montreal players seem to be picking those up pretty easily so far this season.
Yeah, and we saw that yellow card on Samuel Piet, which was,
I still don't understand it. Yeah.
Nobody does, right? Really unbelievable what happened. But we can't really blame the referee for yesterday's game.
No,
I
no,
don't think
no,
so at
God,
all.
no,
Right?
not at all, not
wasn't
one
at
iota.
all exactly. So I feel that I feel we talked about the midfield for now. Let's look at the wing backs. And Matthias, you talked a bit about the wing backs. Edwards and Juan being the two players that weren't under Losada last year. And in my opinion, the two best players for CF Montreal yesterday, no?
I don't agree.
Who was the best player then?
Edwards. I agree with Edwards. He was doing a good game, but Juan, really, the right side of Montreal was just drawn by the left.
Oh yeah.
But we'll talk about
Schaffelberg
that
was
later.
one of the best players on the field, and
I agree.
Juan was the one who had to take care of him. And where was him? On one of the goals, I remember it was Campbell who was just out of position, was trying to defend Schaffelberg, and Waterman was trying to cover for that, and he was not knowing what he was doing. And then finally there was a cross, and it was Piet who came back trying to defend because nobody was at his position. So no, I don't agree about Juan. What did run right yesterday? I don't know. I just saw the game was on his side and was dominated by Nashville on that side. So I love the season played by Juan up to now, but yesterday, no, it was not his best game. And the game happened most of the time on that side. When it was on the other side, Edwards was more daring. He created the goal because he didn't score it. It was an own goal. He was involved in the cancelled goal by the VAR. So when happened on his side, he helped to create. He helped to do something. At least Montreal keeping the ball, because we haven't spoken of the tactics of the game. And one of my points was when you looked at Nashville. It was important to keep the ball, but to dominate the Nashville in their own side and in their own third. And Montreal never were able to do that for the whole game. And when you watched Nashville earlier this season, that was when they had issues. And I don't know what was the scouting, or if the scouting was done right, but Nashville had the right answers. But that was one of the issues, and the second issue was the set pieces.
Yeah, no, I agree. Set pieces were very, very bad. And you know what? Andy agrees with you, Matthias, saying Juan had his worst game of the whole season. I don't fully agree with that, and I'll come back to it a bit later. Edwards, let's talk about him, Eve. Another very good game. It's been quite a few good games for Raheem Edwards as a left wing back. Is he right now, one of the best acquisitions of Olivier Renard for 2024? I know it's still early. I said as of right now.
As of right now. I mean, I think even before the season started, we agreed that it was a very smart piece of business that Olivier Renard had done to, offload Aaron Herrera, pick up extra GAM, and then additionally pick up Ruan and Edwards. And Ruan has generally been a very effective and interesting player, I think, to watch. As Matthias said, like, overall this season, like, you're still having a positive vibe about him. But last night it wasn't there. And I know we're going to talk more about the right side of the defense shortly. But I do agree. Like Raheem Edwards has been, in a season where there's been so much inconsistency with all the injuries and just kind of the curious, I guess, changing of certain players in certain starting roles and whatnot. And I mean, Edwards didn't necessarily get all those consecutive starts as well to start the season, but I find it hard to imagine dislodging him now. For me, like, I think he's one of the more reliable players right now.
No, I agree.
I will be maybe a bit mean, but was Edwards yesterday good, or was he the best player of Montreal by default because the other ones were bad?
I feel that he was the best player for CF Montreal because the others were bad. I feel he was okay. I feel that sometimes he could have done more, but yeah, he was okay, and the others were so bad. So I answer your question in the most pessimistic way.
Another hot take.
I don't know. I'm looking, like, he had some really interesting stats that went in his favor, and then he had some stats that were kind of mid. So I would say I'm kind of in between him having a good day at the office yesterday and in between him just kind of being the best of the worst. Like a little kinder, I think, than Hady, but like I don't necessarily think he's going to be adding this game to his highlight reel at all.
Okay. Interesting. Nice question, Matthias. I like that. And finally, let's look at the defense. George Campbell, Joel Waterman, and Alvarez. I always forget his first name, so I always say Alvarez because I always forget
Fernando.
Yeah, I'm always not sure. So yeah, Fernando Alvarez. That was tough. And especially, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about Juan here, because for me, it's not Juan that has a bad game. It was George Campbell. George Campbell was awful, like really awful. And Juan was left covering his player and George Campbell's player because George Campbell was nowhere to be seen. And for me, it's tough to really judge on Juan when you see someone being so absent from the game. George Campbell was completely invisible during the whole game. Like, we were playing with 10 players yesterday. George Campbell was that bad yesterday.
He was most of the time out of position when defending. Sometimes he tried when the ball to bring some numeric advantage and to get up with the ball. It happened 2 or 3 times in the game, but it's not its first role. His first role is to defend, and his side was just repeat the words, was just round by the opponent. That was terrible.
It was a highway. It was a highway. The right hand side of the defense of CF Montreal. Go ahead.
I mean, no, just so little went well for him. Like, even when he tried, like, he only won 2 out of 9 duels on the ground, which is not good. And that's definitely not what you need your defender, kind of your last line, to be doing. I found he drifted as well, just so far to the right of the pitch at times, and like Ron was maybe trying to compensate. I'm not sure, but anyway, I found that he kind of just drifted so far. I guess out of I always consider out of position being like too far up or too far down, but he was too far wide. At a lot of, he was all over the place. Anyway, it was
all over the place, but never at the place.
Never at the right one. Yeah,
never
exactly.
at the right one. Exactly.
No,
exactly.
And just nothing went in his favor. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I was surprised that he came out after halftime. I was really surprised that he directed the pitch.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And Andy agrees even more. I think George Campbell has 2 speeds: 1 to run for offense and 2 to run back to defense. Much slower. The first 3 goals were his fault, in my opinion.
I don't think
he was involved in all 3.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think you can lay the entirety of it at his feet, though, at all.
Completely agree.
I don't remember exactly the second one, but I agree for the first one and the third one. He was out of position on both ones.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And we had a hot take here from Patrick White saying our best looking backline so far has been Corbo, Waterman, and Alvarez.
been so long. Like I'm not. As you know, I'm Team Gabriela Corbo. I think that's been like abundantly clear. I am. I don't know how to say it.
Auto force, you are auto force.
No, I am. I don't know. I'm just of a belief that the backline is more stable with him in it, no matter where he is in that, be it on the left or on the right, because Joel Waterman is pretty much glued to the middle. I overall agree, but it's been so long and we didn't necessarily see enough of that like lineup together.
Yeah, I
for
agree.
me to marry myself to it. But I will half agree, I guess, for sure.
Corbo
I
is,
agree.
in my opinion, Corbo is the most reliable defender of that backline.
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I've been saying all season.
Yeah, and what he's doing on the bench.
I don't know. Honestly, we did talk about that at one point. Is that we feel that Gabriel Cobra cannot bring enough to the offensive side of things for CF
Have you
Montreal.
seen his long balls? They are great.
Like in the way, I agree with you. I'm just talking for Laurent Courtois. I agree with you. I think he should be in the starting 11. For Laurent Courtois, he wants his two center backs, the right center back and the left center back, to move with the ball forward, which is not the strong suit of Gabriele Corbo, right? That's the reason why he's not there. Now, I don't agree that he should be on the bench. In my opinion,
so Courtois says, I will play the advocate of the devil. Courtois says we want to play forward as fast as possible. Corbo sends great balls forward that break lines, and then you want defenders who go up with the ball. What the heck? I don't understand.
It's interesting.
No, it's a contradiction.
I do agree, and we'll talk about Laurent Courtois a bit later. But let's talk about Joel Waterman. You know, yes, we did concede 4 goals. I think he was the best out of the 3 defenders. Yes, there was a couple of instances where he was, not really, innocent, but he didn't have a very awful game. Joel Waterman out of the 3 center backs.
The important word is very.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel he was awful, honestly. I'm going to be very honest. I don't feel he was awful. I feel that he was lucky on the header of Mukhtar that went on the post, because he's the one really not marking him. That I agree. But the rest of the times, he was the one trying to fix everything in the defense, and unfortunately, there was too many things to fix. But I don't think he had a bad game, in my opinion. Who wants to rebuttal?
Okay. No, go
No,
ahead.
be my guest, Matthias, please.
Come on.
I'm gonna find my words.
Think about it. Okay. Because everyone says since the beginning of the season, Waldman is a new general. Have you seen General him? When the things are going bad, you need to have an experienced player who punch on the table and will say, okay, we have to do that, and he has to reorganize the things. And if his teammates are not good, maybe he has some responsibility to take too, and to say to Campbell, hey, you have to do that, and to Alvarez, hey, you have to do that, because
who tells you he didn't do that?
And he has
to do it effectively if he did.
Take the responsibility. And Camacho was able to do that, and Simon was able to do that, and that's why they were the nickname general was fitting to them. Waterman is not able to do that. He's doing his job, but no more.
I feel you're a bit too harsh on Waterman. Like, honestly, I feel that he's doing that, but unfortunately, the other players are not following or not able, have the quality to follow what he's trying to tell them. I have a feeling that it's tough to judge Waterman on what the others are doing wrong.
I speak about the whole season. I don't speak about just one game.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's 10 games in the season. It's still very early to say he's not a general, right? And we played 8 away from home too. So
It's 1/3 of the season, and I take into account the last part of last season when Camacho left too. So it's
Mhm.
almost
it's not
maybe
the same
not almost
defender.
one
So
season, but at least 2/3 of season, at
I don't
least.
know. I don't feel that he was very bad yesterday. Eve, you were trying to think of the right words to
Yeah.
say. Did you
Yeah.
find them?
Well, number one, Matthias, I love your ability to just argue. I love your evidence-based argument. I am here for it. So 20 out of 10, thank you so much. That being said, I think it must be challenging to have kind of two relatively inexperienced players to marshal in the middle, because it wasn't as much inexperience next to the previous generals of the Impact, right? Camacho um, and Simon had more experienced players typically along their sides. And I mean, Joel Waterman was kind of one of the less experienced ones along their sides at one point, or at least along Camacho's side. So I think that must be challenging. That being said, I think we have talked about it a few times on this pod. Since his national team call up, we haven't necessarily seen the same Joel Waterman. He hasn't necessarily been as boisterous. He hasn't been
Oh,
as
he was good in Columbus.
yes, okay.
But like
Okay.
he was good in Columbus, and again yesterday he wasn't as bad as the other games where he was really dismal.
He was good in Columbus. Columbus were watching
One game out of 34.
they were watching
Not
their
34, 10.
the video that Wilfred Nancy was watching them of Monterrey during the game. They were thinking about him about it. So.
Yeah.
Still, he wasn't bad in Columbus, but yeah.
But
Go
we're
on.
not talking about the Columbus match, Hady. I appreciate that he was good in that match.
But you said that he hasn't been good since he came from the national team. So Columbus was after the national team, right? So that's what I was saying.
If we look at the sum total overall,
that I agree.
Okay, thank you.
But I have a feeling that we're looking, and I want to hear you on that, Matthias. But you're talking a lot about Rudy Camacho and how he was able to marshal, the other defenders and everything. But I have a feeling that we're forgetting that Rudy Camacho, it took him 2 years to master that, because he did start with the back three in 2020. Then in 2020 with Thierry Henry, then 2020, the COVID year, with Thierry Henry, and then 2021 with Wilfred Nancy, before he was able to understand his role. So that's 2 years while he was learning that position in the middle of the back three. Joel Waterman has been at most for 20 games.
I don't think he was learning his role. Camacho had other issues, and he was not focused, and he was not always playing well. I agree with you, but in the experience he had, he showed it, and he shared it. What kind of experience has Waterman? The Canadian national team?
He doesn't have a lot of experience. That's
okay.
why it's taking more time.
I maybe don't misunderstand me. Maybe I don't blame Waterman. I blame the fact that Waterman is at that position, and maybe it should be a more experienced player than him that Montreal doesn't have.
I was going to say who.
I still feel that Waterman is the right
maybe
person for the position.
Had to be someone to hire during the transfer window.
We will discuss that maybe in a few weeks, where we've seen a bit more of Joel Waterman in the back three. But I disagree with that. But it's always nice to have disagreements, right? As long as it's respectful, for sure. Let's move on to Jonathan Sirois. Again, can he be blamed, Matthias?
It's difficult because his defense was. He has, I will say, the same as with Waterman, but not so hard. he also has to direct his defense and to give directions to his defenders. That's something true, and his defenders were nowhere. But even with that, that was so terrible in defense that maybe we should watch the set piece for closer, because I didn't really watch them, and look what Sirwa did on that. But else, I think he had very better games, to be honest. He didn't save points, and I think the expectations on Sirwa are maybe a bit too high because of his performance last year. And sometimes he makes mistakes, but don't remember it's his second year as a pro. And yesterday it was not his best game, far from that, obviously, but was he the worst player on the field? Far from that too.
Eve?
I don't really have much more to add, I think, than what Matthias said, because I did, I didn't see a lot of good replays, like, where they kind of got a little bit more close up on the set pieces when Montreal conceded, because at the end of the day, they did concede from 2 set pieces, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, that's always, I think, a situation where you want to look at the goalkeeper for sure. I mean, I can't place the blame solely at his feet for any of the goals. Obviously, that has been the case in other goals Montreal has conceded this season. So, yeah, I mean, definitely not a night to write home about for him. But, like, in a really, really bad night for Montreal, he's not at the bottom of the list for, player performances for sure.
Yeah, I think we all align on this with Jonathan Sirois. I think that one of the set pieces, he went out and Walker Zimmerman was ahead of him to put the ball in the back of the net. I feel like here he was maybe a bit shaky, but the rest, it's hard to really blame him for everything. But as you guys said, he wasn't a game changer either. Hank could have been that game changer like he was last year. Completely.
One of the interesting questions we could ask, but we don't have the chance to have him on press conferences, is if we ask it to the goalkeeping coach if the instructions he gives to Sirwa are different than the ones he gave last year. If there are changes, and because Sirwa needs to get used to that changes,
of course,
and which kind of change there are, because it would be interesting to know how maybe they defend on set pieces, and maybe Sirwa last year he said to the defender do that and that, and this year he says something else because Courtois doesn't want the same things as Losada. And I don't say it's good, I don't say it's bad. I say just it's different, and maybe it plays a role too. And it came on the debate on the set pieces of yesterday. But don't forget that Nashville are very good on set pieces too. And
Walker Zimmerman is a god on set pieces also. Let's not forget that, right? He's so good with he has a heading ability. I think one of the best in MLS, if not the best. So I don't know. He's so good. Good. Yeah. So moving on, and before we finish that segment, what about Laurent Courtois? Is it time to say he's just not delivering in a way? Honestly, I look at those games, and for me, he's not. It's been quite a few games right now this season where we have discussions here on the spot, and we feel there's something missing in the midfield, and he's not addressing it. And it's been maybe out of the 10 games since the beginning of the season, it happens 3 or 4 times where we said, why don't you put another midfielder on the pitch?
Can I answer first?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I will launch a debate, and I want to have of the viewers who are
Of course,
watching. Yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
So I will come back on what I said at the beginning of the show. Know that Yankov, Kokaro, and Martinez are not there anymore, except the wingbacks. The same players as last year are there, so you can compare with Losada. So how do you compare the games played by Courtois without that three players and the game players and the Losada last season? I asked that to you too, if you want to answer, and also to our viewers, and that will maybe give some food to our debate.
Eve.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think there is still more positive to be taken in possession, last night aside, in general, from Laurent Courtois. I think, like you mentioned, without these three players, which we have a decent enough sample size now, unfortunately, um, it has been significantly more of a struggle. Uh, Going forward and in the attack. And it's really just as we saw last year with Hernan Lozada as well. It was a struggle in the attack. There are parts that I liked of the Hernan Lozada era. Very few of them, but at least the Mathieu evolution, if nothing. But I think there is still more that I like of the tactics aside from the weird midfield drowning under Laurent Courtois. Like, I like the dynamism of the wing backs, and it's also just refreshing to have effective wing backs for the first time. I like the willingness of usually the higher up players to come back and build themselves into the play, although we didn't see that necessarily last night.
No.
And I did see positive progression. Unfortunately, yeah, last night it wasn't there. I felt like there was a grinta in this team under Laurent Courtois so far this season. Definitely wasn't there last night. So yeah, I think there are positives. There are things that have evolved in a positive light.
Yeah, the problem with those. No, the real good thing about Losada last year is that when he realized that he didn't have a number 10 that was capable to play that roaming midfielder position where he's able to give assists and goals, the way an old number 10 used to do, a bit like he used to do as a player. He changed that, and he added an extra midfielder. He added number 8 in his schematics, and it changed, his way of playing. Now the problem is when he did that change, the performances were a bit better in the midfield, but on the pitch they weren't they weren't really better. He was able to grab points here and there, but the team didn't really grow in this new tactical formation. So that's the good thing about Losada. He was able to pinpoint, you know what? I don't have a number 10 capable of doing that. So you know what? Let's scrap the number 10 role, and let's change something. Let's put something that is better for the squad that I have. For Laurent Courtois, he does have that number 10. He does have a Dominique Yankov that could be very nice, but he's injured. He does have quite a few offensive players, but they're injured right now. And in his mind, he's evaluating, saying, you know what? Should I change everything? And when everybody's back, I'm going to have to let them relearn something new, or I'm going to have to rechange back because I would have, those players to play in that tactical formation. So that's a bit of the in my opinion, the two thoughts that Laurent Courtois has right now in his head. Should I change and then change back, or should I keep it the same and hopefully someone will step up and show me something new? And that's why my question that's why I asked that question in the beginning, saying, should we should he change it? Should he change something in the midfield? Should he change something? Because right now, with the players that he has on the pitch, right now it's not working. Or should he believe in his tactical formation and it will work at one point? And don't forget, I'm going to give you one example. Wilfried Nancy at one point, he used to play, and I talked about it a bit earlier in the pod. He used to play Piet and Wanyama. And everybody was like, it doesn't work. It's never going to work. Piet and Wanyama, they're too defensive. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to work. And then it started working because he had a player like Georgi Mihailovic. He had players that were able to play that role of number 8/number 10, that were able to give that extra oomph in the midfield. So, but it took time for the team to adjust to that. So should Laurent Courtois do like Losada did, change things, or should he do like Wilfried Nancy and stick with what he knows, and everything will be will work better in a few games?
I will give two answers to you. The first one is actually it's not an answer. I have the same question as you with the puzzle of Courtois. What do you do without Yankov? Do you wait for him and keep the same style of play or not? That's a very difficult puzzle to answer, and I give credit to Courtois because it's very, very difficult to know that. And but we still can't compare because he has the same player as last season. And the second thing I will add is about what you said about Nancy was very interesting, and I will come back on what I said about Waterman. And now it's about Wanyama and Piet. Piet played the last season of Nancy. The second half of the season of Piet was absolutely great, very great. But he has a Wanyama next to him. He didn't have a player coming from the Canadian Premier League. So that helped a lot. And also, Piet is a player who's learning. He had a huge learning curve since he has arrived in Montreal. And maybe, we can first thank Rémi Garde, because he's the first one who did that. He's one of the first players who improved while being in Montreal and who was better. I don't know when he will leave some day, but who is better, who was improved year after year. Maybe not this one, but that's a different question. But he improved a lot, and we see that he's a player who wants to learn, and he's listening to his teammates, and he learns a lot thanks to what Thierry Henry did with him, playing in a role that didn't suit him at all, but he played it, and he learned from it, and that was made on purpose. And we saw it with this great pass. I think it was against Cincinnati, playing forward. In his role as a defensive midfielder, he learned a lot alongside Wanyama, and he learned to play with him, because in the beginning of the season, when they played together, they were watching on each other's feet. And then in the second half of the season, it was completely different, and that was great. And I think we have to credit both Wanyama and Piet, one for being the teacher to say, and the other one to apply what Nancy said, to apply what Wanyama said, and to do it well. Because knowing what you have to do is one thing, doing it correctly is another thing. And he did it. And maybe Piet that season was like maybe some other players, was maybe playing higher than his actual level.
Yeah,
thanks to the other people around him, and that's great. And we want that, because when you have a great team, a lot of players are doing that. Yeah. But now that he's in an average team, he can't repeat that.
I don't feel that Samuel Piet. I think, in my opinion, and I know a few people, talked about it. I feel Samuel Piet is having a great season as of right now. It's very hard to blame him for anything. he's doing his job very well. It's he's never going to be that player that's going to bring you goals and assists and stuff like that. So he is doing exactly what he's supposed to do. So, but I agree with you. He did grow a lot under
He's doing,
Nasty
yeah, but
next
I
to
agree with you.
Wanyama.
He's
Yeah,
doing what he's supposed to do, but
exactly.
nothing more. But nothing more. And in the second half of the last season, Nancy, he was doing more. And maybe the expectations
Yeah,
are too high, maybe
exactly.
for him. And I don't blame him. He's doing that. But when you say, oh, that player is capable of that, that player is capable of that, that player, and finally no one delivers what you are saying that they are capable of, but they are playing at their level, maybe you should improve the roster at some positions, at some other positions to help them to play at higher level.
To achieve their potential in a way. No, I
Yeah,
agree. I agree. But again, it all depends what's Laurent Courtois is asking from Samuel Piet, and I don't think he's
that's
asking
true.
him to be that involved in the offensive third, and that's something that we should maybe ask Laurent Courtois at one point in a presser. So if anything to add on that game, I think we covered every
I
aspect of
think
it.
you guys
Yeah.
covered yes. No, I was just enjoying listening, honestly, to the back and forth. That's all.
Perfect. So you know what? Let's go. Let's move on to the second segment. We did talk about the injuries quite a lot, right? But the most damaging injuries right now are the ones for Matthias Kokero and the one to Joseph Martinez. Let's keep it real. Yes, of course, Yankov also, but especially those two. And we all know when they were injured, it was mentioned that it would take them 8 to 12 weeks to come back. So let's look at the games that are going to be there in the next few weeks. These are the games that CF Montreal will play in the next few weeks with the first of all the game away from home in Forge. Then again, Miami, Columbus, playing in Toronto, playing against Nashville, playing against DC United, and then playing in Philadelphia. Um, let's remove the two Canadian Championship games from the equation. Okay, let's just talk about MLS right now. All those games are going to be played without Matias Kokaro and without Joseph Martinez. When you look at that, how many points are we going to be able to get from all those games? So we have 4 games at home, 2 games away. The 2 games away are in Toronto and Philadelphia. Matias, how many points do you think we would get?
We should.
Would.
Would.
Would or
Okay.
should? You know what? You can answer both questions. Would or
Yeah,
should?
yeah. I think it's good you say how many, because a lot of people say how many games will win, but the matter is the points, because the wins and the draws are important too. There are points too. I say let's get with 9 points. Half
Nine
of the points,
points
right?
out of
9 points
6 games.
out of six.
Out of
Yeah,
6 games, 9 points.
yes, yeah. So it's half of the points.
Interesting. That's
It's
you. That's how much you think we should get or we would get.
because I'm looking at the standings now. Just 1 minute, just if I'm not mistaken. But Montreal, yes, they have 12 points in 10 games, and several games with those players. So it's a bit more than that. But Kokaro, Yankov, and Martinez were there for a lot of games. So and the schedule is difficult, and also you don't have to forget 2 things. We will be there for Miami next week, and how Columbus will be minded because of the Champions League. That will be very important points too, because that could be game changers for those next 2 home games.
I agree with the second point. I think that in the first, I think everybody's going to be here from Miami. I don't think that anybody's gonna miss the game because they have 1 week to rest, right? So I don't think, I'm pretty sure, Messi, Suarez, Busquets, Alba, they'll all be here. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I still think I'm still, didn't see enough games from Montreal at home to judge on how they're going to play at home. We have 2 games played at home, one that's a win and one that's a draw. Are they able to repeat that in those games? Because we're playing Miami at home, Columbus at home, Nashville at home, and DC United at home. So just to let you know, Eve, Matthias said
thanks.
we would get 9 points from the MLS games.
Okay.
In those 6 MLS games. So
Mm-hmm.
home against Miami, home against Columbus, in Toronto, against Nashville, against DC, and in Philadelphia.
Yes.
What is your answer? You said 4 points, I think, last week.
I sure did. And after last night, I'm even more committed to those 4 points. Like looking at the matches, obviously Inter Miami are on fire. Columbus is perennially on fire. Toronto is also currently on fire. These are all good on fires. So I struggle to see Montreal picking up much from that. The only thing is I'm not sure when the Champions Cup final is. If we might be CONCACAF.
Yeah, he did talk about it. Matthias
I'm so sorry. I had to step away. Yeah.
It's okay. He talked about it, and it's pretty sure that Columbus will be concentrated on
no, it's not until June 1st, final. Actually. So
okay,
there's plenty of time. Yeah. So no, I wouldn't expect them to be a heavily rotated squad. Certainly a good 2 weeks out from the final. But still, that means we're gonna get the A lineup of Columbus, which is gonna be something to contend with for sure. Nashville might have just relaunched their season for all we know. When they show up, they might have like surged into excellent form. DC is always a challenge for Montreal, at least in these recent years. And obviously a road trip to Philadelphia. They're not off to like necessarily the most flying start this season, but they are kind of.
I'm listening to you now. You're saying that they will lose all the games.
No. I said they're going to pick up 4 points.
That's Eve, Matthias. She's always pessimistic, right?
So I will give Montreal a win against Nashville and a draw against DC.
Okay, that was my question. Good. So a win against Nashville and a draw against DC.
So 4 points.
Correct.
And the rest are all losses. Like against Miami, they'll lose. Against Columbus, they'll lose. In Toronto, they'll lose. And in Philadelphia, they'll lose.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm basing that primarily on the lack of available starters and the current form of the opposition. Philadelphia, I'm a little bit on the fence about, to be honest, but I just figure they're probably going to have gotten everything squared away because they're a very stable team.
And my calculation was bad. I because with the 3 points, I'm old school one with 3 points games. I'm still not used to it. It's 30 years ago. It's not 9 games, it's 6 games. So I said one per game. So I would have said 6 points, not 9.
Okay, so you said 6 points, not 9 points.
Not 9, yeah.
You know what? I'm a bit more optimistic this time around.
Shocking.
No, that's Elias, the optimistic one. It's
I know, but you're always more optimistic than me. So
yeah, but it's not very hard to be more optimistic than you.
That is true.
So I would go for. I think we're gonna get between 7 and 9 points. I'm not sure how much, but between 7, 8, or 9 points, and that's what I think will happen. I doubt very much. I understand all the players that are in Miami and in Columbus, but I'd be very surprised that we'll lose those 2 games together in 3 days. It's very rare to use to lose 2 games at home against high-profile teams, and it's very, very rare. So I don't think we're gonna lose both games. The game in Toronto, playing against your rivals, it doesn't matter which one is better. Depends. It always matters which one has more heart. So
yep.
I'm not really sure who has more heart than the other. So that's for me is a coin toss in a way. I feel that if there's a game that I'm pretty sure we're gonna lose, it's the one against Nashville. That's my opinion. And against DC, I feel we have a good chance this year because DC, yes, have uh, uh, very good sequences. And yesterday they were winning 2-0, and then they were right after they drew 2-2. So
Mm-hmm.
they went from 2-0 to 2-2. And I feel that there are some weaknesses to exploit in that DC team. And I feel that we can exploit them, um, in Montreal easier than in DC when we played them the first time around. And Philadelphia, for me, it's going to be tough to get even a point from there because they're
Something will be very interesting that month. There will
Yeah.
be games against Columbus, DC United, Miami. I don't count it because the star players and that, and Nashville. Three teams that Montreal already faced not so long ago. So
yeah.
we will see how they will play differently, and what lessons they learned from the first game against those
Mm-hmm.
teams. That
Yeah.
will be something very interesting.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
More
agree.
than points.
I agree. And we have a question from Andy, Devil's Advocates. What if we lose every game? Is Courtois in hot scene or is it too soon? Who wants to
If
answer that?
if you
Pessimistic Eve.
obviously, if we lose every game, Courtois is in hot seat.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like I think it would be a really bad look, but yeah, mathematically speaking, like it's hard to imagine not being in the hot seat on like a 7 game counting last night's game as well losing streak.
Perfect. Let's answer all the
and
questions
we
that
will
were.
see also with what if he speaks, what will Wanyama say?
Ah,
Because
No,
that's gonna be
they're
fun.
gonna like no availability for Wanyama. Oh darn, he's not
Wanyama was not
available.
happy because he was not playing last year, and now he's not playing, and
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't say anything. So I don't know. I
I don't
don't know.
know.
Maybe he has something to say. Our friend Rico. I don't
We'll
know.
see. We'll see. Let's move on to all the questions that we received. We have a comment from Tate saying, "This is what I saw in the first half: turnovers, and more turnovers. Very bad first half, I think. And even in the second, we started the second very bad too, and we conceded in the first few minutes. Not completely agree with what
Yep.
Tate is saying. Let's move on to the first question from Papa Bear. What Courtois see in Duke that I don't get, especially on the road? Try to convince me. Waterman and Campbell were simply bad, but they will still play the next one. Who wants to go first and answer Papa Bear?
I mean, I think we kind of addressed it earlier. Like we said, he needs familiarity. He kind of needs some momentum in the game, and when you're on the road, it's going to be hard to have that momentum.
But his
Uh
question is, why do we trust him on the road? That's the question of Papa
huh.
Bear, right?
No, it's very true. I think it's a matter of just available personnel. Quite frankly, like I don't think he would be starting right now if, say, Dominic Yankov were fit.
I will play Courtois' advocate and
Yeah.
repeat something Nancy said, and I don't. Maybe Henri said that too. You have to be the same team on the road on the road as at home.
Yeah.
So there's no change in the mentality, in the tactics. We have to be the same team. So
But there
Duke on
has
the
been
road
change.
and Duke at home, he has to be the same player, and it's the job of the coaching staff to manage it. But if you trust him at home, you trust him away.
I agree with that, but we did play differently from home to away. That's the only thing. But I completely agree with what you said, Matthias. Moving on with the next question: is this string of bad games solely due to all the injuries, or should we be able to give a better showing with what is on the pitch and the bench? And that's a question from Roberto. I'll ask Eve to answer
Yeah.
because he's as pessimistic as you in life. So go ahead, Eve.
So I definitely think the injuries are a contributing factor 100%. However, I don't think it's the entirety of it, because at the end of the day, like the back half of the pitch is relatively stable, right? Like there aren't a ton of injuries on the back line aside from Joaquin Sosa, and he wasn't necessarily like a guaranteed starter. You know, he did have a few starts, but he isn't 100% like his loss is not going to be like, you know, a pillar has fallen or anything like that. So for me, no, it's not entirely on the injuries. Period.
Wow. Matthias?
I agree with Eve, and but I will add something that I said at the beginning, but area on the show, that at the beginning of the season, one of the strengths of Montreal was to prevent the other team to play the game, and that was the giving credit to the midfield, Piet and Chouanière, but also to Kokaro. Kokaro was doing
Yeah.
great defending job, and he's not there anymore. And maybe is one of the pieces that is missing. But Courtois has to adapt to that, and that's because and that leads to my answer that I agree with Eve that then yes, you miss a striker that is hardworking in defense, and that still is there when the team attacks or maybe counterattacks, because it's way better on counterattack. So maybe you have to adapt to that, and you have to make some tactical changes, or at least some adaptations, because for several games I think Piet and Chouanière are really suffering when the opponent is in ball possession.
No, I agree. I agree. I think that Matias Colcaro's absence is very, very, very it's very bad, and it's hurting a lot CF Montreal, a lot more than what we think. Um, so I don't think that we can ignore the injuries, because they are a big part of the way Laurent Courtois wants to play. But I do agree with Mathias saying that Laurent Courtois needs to adapt, and that he's not doing that as of right now. And that's something that's a bit concerning, in my opinion. Moving on, last but not least, from Forge's point of view, the timing is perfect to take on CF Montreal. And you know what? That's going to open up our third segment, and that's the Canadian Championship. So let's talk about the Canadian Championship. So we look at the fixtures again. So we're going to have Forge FC hosting the first game, the first leg, sorry, on the 7th of May. So on this coming Tuesday against Montreal at 11 a.m., which is very weird. And the return leg will be on the 22nd of May in Montreal for the return leg. How important has the Canadian Championship become for CF Montreal now that all these injuries are here, and now that we had some pretty bad games, and after that loss in Nashville, Eve, do you think that there's a bit more pressure to perform in a Canadian Championship now?
Man, I wish I could like copy and paste whatever I said last year for this year, because Montreal was kind of in a similar space last year when they started their Canadian Championship. I guess we'll call it a run, even though it's only like kind of a few games. I think every year, I think the Canadian Championship is super important. It is, at the end of the day, the easiest way for a Canadian team to access the Champions Cup, as I'm finally calling it by the right name. Obviously, it's a national piece of silverware that can be raised at the end of the tournament or at the end of the season and celebrated. So I think it's super important to take this competition extremely seriously. We've seen Montreal kind of bow out pretty quickly, and we weren't 100% sure that the coach of the hour was as invested in it as maybe he should have been. But I am always going to be like, give me Kanchamp or give me death, basically.
Interesting. What do you think, Matthias? Do you
I
agree with
agree
me?
with Eve, and I will add some other points. One of the points will be that we will see how Courtois manages, but maybe we'll speak about it later. Manages his roster for those games because there are a very big difference between coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Something else is that having seen the schedule of the team in May, that is not easy. Those games will be important for the momentum too
Yeah.
of the team. And also at the beginning of the season, don't forget that it was pointed by the
Yeah.
club as one of the goals.
Yeah.
Winning
Mm-hmm.
On the
the
objective.
Canadian Cup is
Yeah.
one of the goals of the season. So yes, it's important. Despite the results, good results or bad results, is one of the goals of the season of for the club. So at least if you're out after your first round, it's a disappointment,
Yeah.
obviously. But Forge won all their three Canadian Premier League games played so far. But the season is young, it's Canadian Premier League.
No, I agree. Let's take a look at the Canadian Championship fixtures. So we have CF Montreal playing against Forge. They will play against the winner of the fixture between Toronto FC and CS Saint Laurent. We'll talk about CS Saint Laurent a bit later in social media. On the second side, you have Whitecaps playing against Cavalry. Pacific FC playing against Ottawa. That's going to be the fixtures for the Canadian Championship. So, as everybody said, very important objective of the club. We need to have those players. We need those games in order to build momentum. We need to win those games. But also, I think it's an opportunity to see other players play and see if they're able to perform on that level. And then maybe if they do perform, then maybe give them a bit more minutes in MLS play also. And something that unfortunately Laurent Courtois didn't do much. One last question on the Canadian Championship to you, Eve. Who's the goalkeeper for Canadian Championship? Are we going to see Sebastian Breza?
No, we're gonna see the hero of the Canadian Championship for Montreal, the man with the most shutouts, the best save percentage in Montreal kit, the best
Logan
record.
Ketterer.
Yeah, correct.
That's Elias's joke. But yeah, Matthias.
Please, no Breza.
That's also my thought. Full disclosure.
Yeah, I will be mean once again. Maybe it's a hot take, but I don't know if I really said it here or not. But I believe Montreal has one starting goalkeeper, one number one and two number threes. So that's my thought. So yeah, let's start with Sirois. But I agree with you, Hady, with some other players. And but do not change too much. But maybe one, because I will answer one of the questions you asked earlier in the show with Zouir and Ibrahim. I think some players in this team are better when they come in during the game, when they are subbed in. And we saw it in both last games. Toy was average or below average in Columbus, and it was better when he came in Nashville, and it was exactly the opposite for Vilsaint. So I don't know with such players what do you want to do, even if Ibrahim is always good in the Canadian Cup. But maybe Zouir, maybe he deserves a chance. Maybe. But do not change everyone, because we saw it with the earliest coach in Montreal before Gard. When you change the whole team, it
does not go well. Yeah.
It
Yes.
doesn't go well. I agree. I agree. So let's move on. Hopefully, we'll have a very nice and interesting night day on Tuesday because it's
It
at
really
11.
can't be at 11.
It is at 11. It's
Did it get
whatever.
published elsewhere other than Google? That it was
I,
at 11.
no, it is at 11. Like everybody's laughing on it on Twitter, but I know you're not going on Twitter anymore.
11
So
a.m.
it's 11 a.m.
Oh
So
my
a.m.
god.
I wonder.
I
I
live
hope
under a rock, clearly.
yeah,
I hope one of the mainstream media, maybe if our friend Jean-François Théotonio is listening to us, doing an interview with the guy responsible of the food of the
yeah,
players. When they
that's
take
gonna be tough.
breakfast, how because you have
You have to
the
cook
digestion at
breakfast.
that time is very important. The
Yeah.
nutrition
Exactly.
is very important. How do you do when you're playing so
What's
early
up?
in the morning to have strength, and how do you feed yourself? I know that the marathon of Montreal starts at a crazy time in the morning, and I also wonder how people can run for 4 hours when starting running at 7 a.m. or I don't know what time. It's just
So
Yeah, you're not a morning person,
well,
Matthias.
débile,
We
I
know
would
that.
say in French, but that are pro players, and I wonder how it's managed because they are not used they are not used to it, and maybe what it's in their stomach will make the difference.
Let's
It's
wait
a joke.
and
It's a joke.
see. We have Tate that says easy call. Bressa gets the start.
Oh,
Please, Tate, don't
Tate.
say that. Don't say that. Please don't say that. So moving on, social media. Let's look at what everybody's saying. Eve.
Yes. Hold up. Let's get our thing. All right, so let's build off what we were just talking about because, yes, okay, Montreal is apparently playing a matinee game, but there is, in fact, a 7 p.m. game taking place in Quebec on a Wednesday. And as Stéphane Halpin tweeted, 7 p.m. Wednesday at Claude Robillard, CF Saint Laurent is going to host Toronto FC at, of course, the Impact Old Stomping Grounds, and a stadium with like a seating capacity of several thousand. And this is pretty massive for a club like CF Saint Laurent, which knocked out CPL side Halifax Wanderers in a penalty shootout in order to advance to this round. I don't know. Does anyone want to talk about how massive this moment is for CF Saint Laurent and their players and their staff?
It was massive. What a massive result for CS Saint Laurent, and also being able to host the game against Toronto. That's so important because, of course, they're going to be able to gain a bit of money because they're hosting at home. So they're gonna have a bit of money. I hope that a lot of people will buy their tickets and go and watch them play. What I know is that you are able to go and watch the game and give also a small donation if you want an extra donation also for CS Saint Laurent. Always nice to see those clubs, get a bit of money in order to continue their progression and to continue to evolve and grow. I think it's going to be massive, and I think the support is going to be massive. There's should be. I think the capacity is 17,000 at Centre Claude Robillard. So
I'm not sure what the capacity is to be
I think it's
honest,
about
but go for it.
17,000. So if we're able to sold out, that will be.
I think that Daniel Namias Leonard tweeted that it's 6,600 because there are works at the stadium and so on. But I don't know. But never mind. The stadium has to be packed.
Absolutely.
And it's massive on a lot of ways. First, you don't have the chance to watch a team from Quebec that is not CF Montreal or the Montreal Impact playing an official game against an MLS team. You don't have the chance often to watch that here in Quebec. So first, go for it for that. Then, obviously, go encourage the team, and it's CF Saint Laurent or Saint Leonard or whatever the team, go encourage them because it's something good, and it could also be a game changer. And it reminds me the game of Montreal when they were in USL against Santos Laguna, and
Yeah,
it was kind of a game changer. And people thought, oh, okay, we can do that with that team, and so maybe it will boost the CPL to have a team in Quebec, maybe in the Greater Montreal Arena. Maybe they will think, oh, it's possible to have a team in Quebec and also in the Greater Montreal Arena. And I don't know what can happen, but if it's a success, it won't be only a success for CF Saint Laurent. It will be a success for soccer in Quebec overall, and
Yeah.
showing that CF Montreal is one of the piece, the most important piece now, and we'll all agree on that. But that there can be other very important pieces, and the more pieces we have, the better.
I agree.
Very well said. Very well said, Matthias. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So this is from Canadian Soccer Source, and they're responding to a tweet where it's been announced that the squad size for Copa America is likely to be increased from 23 to 26 players. So in that case, Canadian Soccer Source is mentioning about time. Important announcement once confirmed gives Canada a chance to call in players like, and they've listed Theo Corbianu, Jaden Nelson, Luc de Fougerolles, Luca Plus, and Tani Oluwasi, among others. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't read it. It's too small on my screen. So obviously an increased squad size is probably not super surprising given kind of, it just seems to just be a popular theme, I guess, of many tournaments recently. Who are some players that are maybe on that bubble who can benefit from this being implemented, like that come to your minds?
Oh, for me, Tanya Oluwasi has to be called. Like, he's been such on a hot streak
with Minnesota
since he started with Minnesota, that at one point you have to cap tie him. Like, you have to cap tie him. You have to make sure that he plays for Canada only and not for the US, because he's able to play for the US and for Nigeria. I don't think he's going to be called up with Nigeria, but he could play with the US. So you need to cap tie him as soon as possible. Hopefully, we're going to be able to do that during the friendlies and call him up in the Copa America, give him a few minutes here and there, because I think he's such a talent. He's been so interesting, and he has that, the fact that he's very tall, as a meter 88, that's something that you can't find very easily nowadays. A tall player playing striker. That profile is very interesting to have on a national team, in my opinion, and in big tournaments too. So yeah, hopefully he'll be the one that's gonna be called up too.
Interesting. Anyone come to mind for you, Matthias?
You have to keep two things in mind when doing that large list. The first one is captaining players, like Hady said, but the rules have changed. I don't remember the ones, because under Infantino, all the rules are changing on the field. It's crazy. We don't. Nobody understands anything anymore. But yes, and the second thing is the World Cup, because Copa America is a big tournament, and it's a big experience to be together for a long time for a big tournament. Even if you remain on the bench, or even, I don't know if all the players are on the bench, or even some of them are in the stands. I don't know what's the roster rules in the Copa America, but even that, you spend time with Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David in such circumstances. It's very important for the remainder of your career. So think about that also. Obviously, I still like Milan Borjan, for example, as a goalkeeper, even if he's not there, if he was not there at the last camp, but you have to have a right balance and to think about the future too, because the World Cup is the big goal for the Canadian team.
Of course. Interesting.
Yep, totally. All right. Next up, we have a tweet from a friend of the podcast, Alexandre Gangué-Rizic, highlighting Evelyn Vian. She scored 2 beautiful goals for AS Roma today in a 4-3 win over Inter Milan, showing great speed, skill, and finishing on both. She's also kind enough to provide us with her goal stats. She's now got 15 goals and 7 assists for Roma this season after 3 goals and 3 assists this week. Surely she gets some minutes this summer with the national team. And we do actually have the video of the goal, so I'll just quickly play that before we discuss.
Beaten before this match. Oh, it's a lovely bit of skill there. Really nicely done from Vian. And that's it, the opening goal. Evelyn Vian, 15 minutes on the clock. And Roma take the lead. Alborguete.
So anyway, that was her first goal of the day. Her second goal was much different, much later on, but it was also an excellent goal. I guess going into the Olympics and the pre-Olympic send-off tournament that we're about to have come visit Montreal, is she the most informed striker for Bev Priestman right now?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, she is. But you know what? It's fun to call up your informed striker, but if she doesn't play, then, it doesn't really matter if you call her up or not, right? So
that is true. Yeah. Matthias, do you think she's done enough to force Bev Priestman's hand?
She has done a lot. She has done a lot. Now, I'm not following the women's national team as close as you're doing, to be honest, recently. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they will call Christine Sinclair back again for goals, because it looks like she's there for more. She's there for more than 20 years. But it's the Olympics. So again, what will the head coach do? Will she rely on the players that helped to qualify and that she used to play with, or will she make changes in the tournament? I don't know. It's always a difficult question, and for all the teams and for all the tournaments. I don't speak only about because it's a debate in Belgium now about the national men's team for the Euros too. So all the analysts are saying no, don't expect too many changes because the head coach is used to his team.
Yeah.
So that's a struggle for Vian. But if the other ones do not score, and if she scores goal after goal, especially like this one, she scores points to start
very
games.
important ones. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, and don't forget, 18 players only called up for the.
As of right now,
the
maybe they'll
Olympics.
announce a change too. Yeah.
Hopefully they will.
Yeah,
but
seriously.
as of right now, it's 18, and if it's 18, of course, Vian has always been in the national teams with Bev Priestman. But will she be in those 18? That's a tougher question.
100%. Okay, next one, also on our national teams. So this is from Ishmael Kone Enthusiast, who says, Theo Bear a goal. He heads in his second goal of the game and his 15th of the season. And we do as well have the video of that goal from the tweet, so I'll just quickly play that.
And another really good goal from Murrell's point of view. The pass from Shane Blaney to Jen. Jen, head up. Brilliant delivery. Theo Bear, right place, right time. Brilliant header. 15 for the season.
I do love the dedication of somebody willing to record their TV. I'm just going to say that right now. I admire that dedication to getting the clip. Because admittedly...
He's more dedicated than the defender that had to play on that play, because there was...
Yeah,
it's still a nice finish though from Theo.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the hardest he's worked for a goal this season.
Of course,
to say the least. But is he maybe? I know he's kind of been on the periphery for sure, but kind of, especially seeing as Kyle Laren's had a much quieter season. Jonathan David has been pretty, I would say, relatively consistent so far this season. Should Mauro Biello take a more serious look at Theo Bear? because he's been on fire in Scotland, and not with one of the big two teams in Scotland either.
I think it's important to get your informed striker and to call
yeah.
him up.
Yeah.
It's important. He was called up last time around.
He was
if I'm
called
not
up, but he didn't really get like
Didn't
any
play.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't play. But I think it's important. And since he's been called up and he got, to know the group, I think, getting called up again will maybe grant him a few minutes. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think it's important to have your informed strikers to be called up. Like that.
Yeah.
That for me is should be really a done deal. You're calling your informed strikers. That has to be it, right? So I don't know. Let's wait and see what Morabello is going to do, or whoever coach will it be.
I've come to terms with it. It's okay. Come to terms with it.
Matthias, informed striker again.
Yeah. Especially, it's not informed; it's informed for the whole season.
Consistently.
That's the point, and that's something in Bears' advantage, I think. Yes, and I repeat my point of a few minutes ago. Do you count on him for the World Cup? Is he a player that should be there for the World Cup? Because he's informed, but he's old, and in the little league, maybe not. But Bear is still young. Yeah. He has room for improvement. Maybe he will leave Scotland soon because of his season and continue to improve. So being with the national team will help him, and also being in a big tournament with the big players, even if he doesn't have playing time because he doesn't need to be captain. It could be important, but I don't have the whole list of the contestants for the spots, so I cannot answer very accurately.
All good.
Because I know. I know there's David. But Bear is one of the players who might apply for a spot for the Copa America, obviously.
Yeah.
Just to give his stats: 33 games, 13 goals, 4 assists this year with Motherwell in a Scottish league, which is, I think, very impressive.
And also, don't forget there's Johnston in Celtic.
Yeah.
I am Morbiello. I call him and I say, you see him each week on Scottish Match of the Day, or I don't know how it's called in Scotland. Mm-hmm. So he has more insight about him than in Canada. So it's good. It's very important also to have those. It's kind of scout. It's kind of of scout, because he knows. But maybe we say, but Bear is lucky because there are circumstances that helps him to score the goals, and actually
he's just been super lucky all season.
Exactly.
The figures are not reflecting the reality, or maybe he will say, no, it's really, really in top shape, and you should call him. So having a call with Johnston to speak about Bear would be something interesting too for Biello.
As long as Canada Soccer can pony up a few dollars, as he'll be playing 2 roles now, player and scout.
But can I player? Yeah, you make the joke, but I had the same kind of joke when we heard that there will be 26 players instead of 33, but can they afford 3 outer rooms? I don't think Jason.
You raise a scary question.
We say, we're
3 extra rooms.
Bankruptcy. Yeah.
Maybe it's just 1.5 extra rooms. Maybe they can get a nice little cot from the hotel.
They will share the room. The 3 extra players will have just 1 room for
one room.
There we
exactly.
go. Oh gosh. Okay.
Just to give you one thing that I found very interesting. Do you know the value of Alistair Johnston now on transfer market?
No.
No.
It's 8 million euros.
Good for him.
8 million euros for Alistair Johnston.
Good for him.
I look at that and I'm like, wow, that's great. He's the 8th player, most valued players in Scotland right now.
Wow.
Wow.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
even a better stat than the other one.
Yeah. Agree.
Both are
All right.
good. So.
Yeah, in their own way. All right, next up and last but not least, I took the liberty of translating this one from French. So this person, we kind of, I think, addressed a lot of it already, but I like the succinct. My report of the game of CF Montreal, excellent match from Raheem Edwards. I liked what I saw in the last quarter of the game, a team that doesn't give up. And 3, I want to see more of Zoo here. Anything to add based on what Mathieu Smith had to say?
No, we agree with him.
Good takes. Okay, cool.
I don't agree with everything, but we had a so long debate about the game. And we didn't even debate about Choignier's salary and the...
Oh my gosh, we completely forgot.
Yeah. Right. If you want to, go ahead. Does he deserve 600,000, Matthias?
No.
How much does he deserve?
Maybe something in between what the agent asks and what the club offers, and they have to discuss. But I'm not a pro in discussion. But I think that the debate is Mathieu Choignard should Mathieu Choignard be mad on his agent because the timing is not good. First of all, and the advice he gave him when he signed his contract, it was not so long ago, was maybe not good too, because he said, okay, sign the contract he has now. And a few months later, Choignard is at the All-Star game. So, his value increased in a few times. And now it looks like panic because Choignard was so good. It looks like the agent said, oh, we have to sign a new contract now because he's hot. So we have to take advantage of the moment and we have to push. And they are not sending money or through the windows at CF Montreal. So they don't think like that. And it looks like there's some panic from the agent of Choignard. And it's sad for him because it doesn't look good for him, and we don't even know what he's thinking about it. And maybe he's in between all of the situations, and he just wants to play and to be focused on his game, especially as it's not very easy this year, as we spoke about earlier on the show.
Interesting.
Your opinions?
Oh, I feel that he should have at least 500,000. But if you look at the comparisons between the players in the same position that are performing, at a similar rate, they are all paid more than 600,000. So I feel that he deserves at least between 500 and 6,000 and 600. I think 250 is a bit too low. For a player of his caliber, but I agree with you, Matthias. That the agent maybe didn't play the game right, and maybe right now the timing is not really the best timing. I completely agree with that. It's really the worst timing for it, but I still feel that he deserves to be paid accordingly to his performances.
I will ask another question, but Yves, you can answer the question. No, we know the value of Choignard now. What he played the last MLS All-Star game, so he has some value on the MLS transfer market. So, do you think it's more valuable for the club to give him a salary increase or to trade him?
I think also you have to look at the goodwill of the supporters, because Mathieu Choignard is a beloved player by Montreal supporter community. He's a local player, one of so much of what Montreal promotes is playing the youth and raising the youth up through the levels. And Matthias Choinière is probably the most successful product of their academy to date, anyway. So I think losing him and kind of losing him in a circumstance of contract negotiation, not just because, it was a natural progressive step in his career, would be a bad look. I think it wouldn't be very well received by the community. And I think that there are kind of intangibles that a player like Matthias Choinière brings on and off the pitch as well that would be lost. So I'm going to say a salary increase is the better option.
I agree with Eve.
I will play the devil's advocate. And
no, if someone's going to be like, here's $3 million or something, then okay, never mind.
If
that's your devil's advocate, like an unrealistic trade.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Maybe because we spoke about MLS teams. I think it's most of the teams interested, and maybe all of the teams interested are MLS teams. It's a bad trade. It's not a good idea. I agree with you, but it could be the first CF Montreal player to have graduated from the CF Montreal Academy and making it from scratch to leave the club and at a good value. So he has been, let's say, too good for the club, but he has to be transferred or traded that way, not just to San Jose against I don't know who
100,000.
It's not important, but if it's communicated that we cannot keep Choinière and he's making a step forward in his career, maybe that will write another piece of history, and the club could communicate around that. And Choinière is writing another piece of history of our academy.
That's
maybe.
Good, I doubt that we'll see a lot of MLS teams interested in Choinière. That's my own opinion. So let's wait and see what the MLS market is going to be able to offer if a trade is possible. Because as you said, Matthias, getting traded for 150,000, I don't think it's going to be. Nobody's going to look at that as being a good thing. So.
No.
And he has only a year and a half left on his contract, so he's not going to be traded for $1 million. Forget about it. So it's going to be something between 300 and 500,000 in GAM. For me, this is not enough. It's too. He's too big of a piece of the puzzle to go for 300 to 500,000 GAM.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see. Last but not least, we do have Pop's board. Right, Eve?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Pop's board is giving us two games to guess the score of. So, of course, CF Montreal against Forge Hamilton and CF Saint Laurent against Toronto FC. So what are your picks, guys?
I'll go if no one else wants to.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I will say that for Impact versus Forge, I'm gonna have the Impact edging it 2-1.
Okay.
And for CF Saint Laurent versus Toronto, unfortunately, I will have Toronto taking this one, and I will say 4-1. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Can you write them down because we're gonna send them to
give me.
Thanks.
I don't have anything to write.
Oh, it's okay.
I have my phone. I have my phone. I'm a millennial. It's okay.
Okay.
We're good.
Thanks. Okay. Good. Thanks.
I don't like to make a prediction like that, but I will play the game. I will start with Saint Laurent Toronto. Unfortunately, I think Toronto will win, and I believe as there is a second leg that Hamilton Montreal will end in a draw.
Okay.
Interesting.
I will say I agree with Eve's score 2-1 for Montreal in Forge. And you know what? Even if I just want to talk with the heart, and I would say a 1-0 win for CS Saint Laurent.
That would be so great.
Oh my god, I would live for it.
Honestly, I don't care if I lose. I just want to put it out there just so that it's a possibility.
Okay.
So that's it. That's all, guys. Thanks a lot, everyone.
I think that
us.
that we it's too bad we don't have Rocco Pascentino here, but we have to ask him if since Toronto wins against Toronto, he does the walk from Centre Claude Robillard to Stade Saputo walking, and it's we do a money fundraiser for Saint Laurent.
Oh,
that would be nice. That would be nice.
that would be really cute.
Good. So, guys, thank you very much for being here with me. Thanks for everyone watching. Matthias, thanks again for freeing yourself and
my pleasure.
Jumping in. Always very interesting to hear you. Eve, as usual, very fun, even if very pessimistic, but always fun. Thanks, everyone. Thanks again for being here. As usual, guys, you all know the gist. This podcast is always going to be free content for everyone. But in case you want to help us out, in case you want to help us build something even better, we do have a Patreon page, so feel free to join it and to help us grow the product. That's it for today. See you next week for episode 179 of The Ball is Round.